Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, Meredith Calloway.
Hello, and welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. I am your host, Meredith Calloway, and I am here today on another episode with owner and lead travel designer of Amore Travel Design, Cathy Rowland. Welcome, Cathy, to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, my pleasure.
So, Cathy is a Travel MBA alum, a Top Producers Club member multiple times, and also a former, this is not her first go at entrepreneurship. So I think maybe that's one of the best places to start is tell us what you were doing before you got into the travel industry and started a travel agency, and then what led you to this journey.
Oh boy, I love this conversation. Um, I used to have a hobby of making dolls, and so I had a doll reborn supply company for 17 years. I would carry different artists' doll kits and all the supplies and things for them to make reborn dolls. I sculpted dolls out of polymer clay, and I would send them up to China, and they would come back as blank vinyl doll kits, and that's kind of what I sold for other people as well. So I had a whole business full of, more merchandise retail and artistry, if anything. And I burned out in it. I decided I no longer had a passion for doing dolls, and so I'm like, "Well, what am I passionate about? What do I love doing?" Because I feel like that's the best method for me to find my path is to follow something I enjoy, and who doesn't love traveling? So, I got on Google one day and said, "How can I become a travel advisor?" And I found the travel MBA, like, in the first day, and I signed
Wow.
up. Yeah.
And
So
you
that's
signed up.
what led me here.
Yeah. So going back to your other business, it was you didn't burn out because you were struggling. I mean, I think you burned out because it was too successful, or
It
that's
was
one of the reasons.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was successful, but it and I mean this in the nicest of ways, some of the people were a little crazy, and the conversations kind of led me away from it being
Okay.
enjoyable anymore. So it wasn't a success level that I quit, it was just the
Yeah.
people and the industry, and I wasn't enjoying it anymore.
Yeah. It wasn't your people.
Yeah.
Is that something that you have found in travel? Is that it is much more the people you want to be
Oh,
hanging out
definitely.
with? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
I would
found my
agree with
friend.
that. Yeah. I love that. Absolutely love that. So, um, do you remember you went through the travel MBA program? You went before long before the pandemic.
Yes. Well, I started in the end of 2018, and I was in the 6th month one, so I
You
graduated
did.
in March of 2019.
Okay, okay. And since then, I mean, so then you had that first year-ish of, um, booking and selling travel, and then whammo, the
Mhm.
pandemic.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges that really knocked you during the pandemic?
Oh, well, I was of the thought that it was going to be gone in 3 weeks, as
Yeah, I
everybody
think
thought.
all of us were.
All of
Oh,
us
this whole
did.
thing, it's only gonna be it's a couple of weeks.
It's gonna be short-lived, so I created more work for myself in that whole process because I convinced everybody that it was gonna go away really quick, so let's just be
Yeah,
slow. So,
right,
rather than instantly canceling everybody, I got most of them to just rebook 3
right.
months later, 4
Yeah.
months later. So I had to do it 3 or 4 times, so I learned an awful lot during that process. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit to some of the things that you had to learn literally on the fly during that period
Mm.
about, like, like testing and, um, future cruise credits and what that means and travel insurance?
Yep.
Um,
And the
there w
travel insurance won't cover anything, so
Right.
there's that too. Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
It was an awful lot. I learned a whole bunch because I had never gone through anything like it yet,
right.
because I was still in my first year of booking travel in the first place. So everything was new to me. I didn't know what FCCs were. I didn't know that pandemic wasn't covered under travel insurance. I didn't, know if they were all going to be able to get their money back or
Yeah.
keeping track of what's refundable and non-refundable, things like that, which I probably hadn't really thought too much about before the pandemic. So I learned a whole wealth of information during the pandemic about travel.
Yeah.
Yes. And the testing. That was pretty stressful as well.
So stressful and things changing too. So you had to stay on top of where you needed to be tested and where you didn't. And then um yeah. And then getting stuck places if you did test positive.
Yes, yes, so much fun.
So much fun. So
PTSD.
um I want to actually focus on, you know, maybe more uplifting things. So
Sure.
let's
Mhm.
because like you know what? It was an incredible setback for the travel industry, but I always and I said this even during it was that the comeback would be better than the setback and this will probably be the greatest comeback the travel industry has ever seen because it's definitely the greatest setback.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
it has
yes,
been.
yes.
And you included. So you have grown your business to the point where you are in what we call phase 4, which is over $1 million in sales. You did that relatively quickly.
Mhm.
What are your secrets of success, Kathy?
What were my secrets of success? I threw everything at the wall in the beginning to figure out what would stick. I think that
Yeah,
was kind of it. I had to figure out how to be a business owner. I had to learn how to engage people to want me to book their travel, find those people who wanted me to book their travel, um, how to book travel. The whole thing was a learning experience. And I tried everything until I found the things that actually worked for me. So
yeah.
I did things like the Chamber of Commerce and I did advertising. Well, we all tried Facebook and Google and
Mhm.
nextdoor.com. And I mean, just anything and everything that I could find, I tried. And a few of them were actually successful. Once I got enough of the beginning clients, if you will, they either turned into good clients for next trips or referrals for other people. So eventually my network actually grew more organically after that first year, which was good
Right,
because it was a lot of
right.
work the first year trying to figure out how to get your name out there and how to find people and
Yeah.
yeah.
And that is something that we, you know, mentally prepare our students for in the travel MBA program is that it is absolutely a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yep.
But you do have to continue to try these both list building and relationship building techniques
Mhm.
um, and systems because you're not going to necessarily know what's going to be the best route. So I think trying them all and
Yeah.
just keeping at it. I do get the sense that you're a natural salesperson in
I
general.
never thought I was, but I would agree with you now that I probably am, but I always thought I was the most unsalesy person there was. But you made me think of something when you just said that about the list building, and it's probably the number one thing still,
Mhm.
what are we, almost 6, 7 years in, that still works really, really well for me is the easing because I started it from the very beginning and
Mhm.
blog writing, even though I don't like doing it, I still do it, and I do it every single week, and I will get every single week somewhere between 3 and 10 people responding at least
Yeah.
sometimes more, from my
Wow.
newsletter saying, "Hey, I think I wanna go to Europe," or, "Hey, I saw you were in Egypt. I think I might wanna go there,"
Mhm.
so it still works even now. So,
Yeah. Well, that is one of the non-negotiable, marketing systems that we teach at GTN, and quite frankly, I built a whole business on, the power of an e-zine and being consistent with it and following that formula, that we teach, which is a formula that really ultimately what it does is builds know, like, and trust. It builds know, like, and trust so that I think that's amazing. I never knew that you, are still doing it, and so I commend you because It absolutely takes commitment, and there will be weeks, many, many weeks that you're like, "Ugh, can I just skip this week? No one will notice."
Yeah.
It's true, people may not notice, but when you show up consistently every single week at the same time, on the same day, every single week and never skip a week, what it does is it builds that confidence and that it really switches people's perception from this person's just in it when it's convenient to this person is a professional.
Yes. I
Absolutely. So it's not that people aren't going to notice. So you can you can, skip a week or two. um, it's we're not worried about whether people notice or not. What we're recommending, the reason why we're recommending it to be consistent like that is because it really does, in the long term, develop a true professional appearance. I used to say when I would talk about this, give talks and presentations about this, is that think of the easing as your virtual storefront. And, you work from home and most travel advisors work from home. They don't have a physical storefront. And you showing up in their inbox every single week is a little bit like that reminder. Oh, she's still in business. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I can call her when I'm ready.
Yeah.
So it's not, we don't, you can look at your statistics and your open rates, but don't get like freaked out if the open rates go down or people aren't necessarily reading it, because the power is mostly in just showing up.
Yes. I agree. I
Yeah.
still agree.
All right, well, thank you for sharing that. So um I have found with a lot of advisors that it does pay off to do what you did. Like, it does pay off to just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And then eventually you will find that you start to build this book of business. And if you are doing things like an e-zine and other things that are really key to marketing, but that's one of them, you're gonna you're not you're gonna you can take the accelerate your foot off the pedal of accelerating your marketing efforts
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
And most of the business, once you get to the place where you are now, comes from referrals or repeat. Is that the case for you?
Yes, 100%. I still do a couple things, but
Right.
mostly I think doing the easing was one of the most important, and in long term, I mean, the short term stuff, you just
Y-
figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
Um, the SEO on my website, which probably now needs to be redone for the whole AI SEO version, but I
Right.
mean, I get a lot of people who call me. I also answer my phone, which most people don't do, which
Oh, that's a really good tip. Talk about that.
I do. And it's crazy because I've gotten some of my best clients. That example last week, or well, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I got a call from somebody saying, "Oh, I was looking for a travel advisor in Bluffton, South Carolina, and you came up." Oh, and I'm like, "Oh, well, that's kind of funny because I'm in Colorado." I just booked almost $100,000 trip for him a couple of days ago for him and
Wow.
his family for a retirement party. So, I do answer the phone and I still do the SEO. I think it made a difference, whatever my rankings are on Google, which I have no idea how it turns out that people in another state find me as in their area when I'm not. But I don't complain about it because I don't have to be in their area. But I do answer the phone. Sometimes it's, worthless ones. I can't find anything cheaper on Expedia for flights. Can you get us a discount? I do get that occasionally too, but
Mhm.
most of the time it's just people who are searching for somebody to help them plan a great trip, and it can be really lucrative. So,
Yeah, for
and they
sure.
like when you answer the phone. They don't want to leave a voicemail. They just won't if they can help it.
One of the things that I know is in your wheelhouse or brilliance is um actually doing a really good job of developing systems and
Oh,
procedures.
yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And because you're also a mentor
Yes.
in at GTN for our not new to the industry advisors, the people once you graduate from Travel MBA, or if you join us and you're an experienced advisor already, um, you go into our Accelerate program. So can you talk a little bit about um, what recommendations you have, what tips you have for people who want to improve that part of their business?
And I think that's where my bandwidth comes from. As you know, I became so successful that my husband could quit his corporate job because he was
Yes, I
always the
love that.
breadwinner. He could quit his corporate job and join me full time in the business. So now there's two of us working together, which is great. As long as you can stand being with your husband 24/7, which let's
So lovely. Of course you can stand that.
there's some people who say they couldn't work with their husband that much. But I think between the fact that I have such great processes and systems is the only way I can manage as many clients and book a business that I do. When you're booking over $3 million, if you don't have good systems, you are going to drop the ball on everything. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I have
And you'll wake up
tons.
at 3 o'clock in the morning every single night
Yeah.
in a panic because you're like, "Did I
Yeah.
remember to do that?"
Yes. So I have many, many different systems that I use. I've very much automated Travel Joy to be very effective in my business for my processes. I use Asana with a task list for every single client. Everyone gets assigned, certain date, certain time, things to make sure they don't fall through. And then Richard and I divvy up the tasks and do it that way. But I think systems are huge, and I have automations in my newsletter, my autoresponder as well, so when I get new clients, they're gonna get that welcome series from me. Or
Yeah,
when I used to do bridal shows, which I don't do anymore, I had whole list and sequences, to remind them, "Don't forget, you're gonna get married in a year, and you're gonna want a honeymoon," or, all those kind
mhm,
of things. So, touch points are super important, automations are super important, processes are super important. Don't reinvent the wheel every 5 emails that you write out 20 times a day. If you
yeah,
have it already as a
mhm.
process, it saves you so much time. So,
Yeah, and now with AI tools,
oh,
it's
yeah.
getting easier and easier to I mean, it doesn't take away from the workload, but it 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 makes it easier to write those 5 emails so that you have them and then you can just grab them instead of, like you said,
Well, and
rewriting
if
it
you
over and
don't
over again.
already have that sequence, you go to AI, you say, "Write me a welcome sequence for these
Yeah,
kind of clients," then you automate them. Okay,
yeah,
now you've taken 2 steps within
yeah.
half an hour, and your life became ultimately easier.
So you dropped a lot of, things there that I wanna unpack. So first of all, you're selling over $3 million a year. That is amazing. Talk to me about, like, yes, you definitely need systems, procedures to handle that. Talk to me about, like, the reality of handling that much business.
Well,
And do you have a team? Do you have an assistant? How does it all work?
yeah. Well, I think some of it is also because that they become more luxury over the years. So, of course, that
Mm,
helps with the dollar amount. And the more
yes,
luxury clients you have, the less workload you do have than if you have a whole bunch of $6,000 trips versus,
yes.
those things make a difference.
$40,000 trips, right?
Yeah. So as far as assistant, I before Richard retired, I used to have a couple of part-time employees. Um, but since he has retired and we workaholic. We're workaholics for sure. Because we don't have kids at home anymore either. They're all grown. And so when we're
And you love
bored,
what you do,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, we love what we do. So we are both full time. So that's a lot of hours and we work more than 40 hours a week some weeks and then some weeks we can just say I think I'm going to go play golf today and leave. So um but
Or
I think
travel.
having
You
or
travel a ton.
I do travel a ton. That's why I'm in this business though because I do love it. Um I forgot your question already now.
So I was asking, tell us about like, so $3 million in business. How do you manage it all?
Right. So probably most of it is with my systems. The minute I get and I use DMCs for 90% of what I do as well,
What's
which
a DMC just for those who are not
no, a
in the industry?
destination management company who specializes in an area or 2 or 3, so like Italy DMCs or France DMCs. So I get a client I sign them on board. I've instantly sent them the forms they need to fill out. I've created my Asana task list for them already, all within a couple of minutes. And then I instantly just usually start an email to the DMC. So I've within an hour of signing a client up, I've already started to plan their trip, knowing because I took notes through the whole call of what they wanted, got a feel for their travel DNA. And so 95% of the time I'll have that email out in the same day. And then I sit back and I wait. And then, once we get to that process, Richard and I divvy up our tasks. I'm all sales. I'm the onboarding. I plan travel. I do all the design part of it with my DMC, or if I'm going to do it, FIT, which is free independent travel, where I don't use the DMC. Um, Whichever that is, I take care of it all. I book everything once they've decided and we've gone through that collaboration part of the trip. And then Richard takes over the concierge part from
Love
there.
it.
So, I've got him everything set up and everything's taken care of. And then he gets to take care of the recommendations or the itinerary building or
Fill in the skeleton of the itinerary.
exactly
So
all the
basically, you take care. I've what I used to one thing I like to teach is the whole phases of the sales cycle.
hmm
So phase one is marketing, just brand awareness. And then from the moment you get an inquiry to the moment you take deposit is phase two. And it sounds like that's what you are. You
yep,
own phase two.
yep.
And then once you take deposit, is that when you hand the baton over to Richard?
Most of the time, there's still a little bit of, joint in between there, but I
Yeah.
make sure that everything is settled and we know. I mean, they still call me most of the time throughout the process if they have questions. And if it's, something that Richard's typically dealing with, I'll say, okay, we'll make sure we take care of that. And I pass the baton off to him for that. So it just kind of depends on what the questions are or what the needs are. But we have automated things to keep in touch and have touch points as well throughout the process once they're booked so that they don't think we've automatically forgotten them or
Yeah.
we don't care anymore now that their trip is booked. And then we make videos before they leave. So we'll walk them through their itinerary. We'll do it up on, we think we use Loom, and just kind of say, okay, it's coming up. We're so excited for you. And here's where you can find everything. Here's your DMC emergency number. Here's how you find a voucher for this. Here's your restaurant recommendations or reservations if we did it. So that hopefully if they watch it, which most of the time they do, we won't get that call 3 o'clock in the morning. That's the hope. So,
Well, and also if you've used a DMC, you don't get that call at 3 o'clock in the morning
well,
because
sometimes they still wanna talk to you. It's not a
the
guarantee that they're gonna still call them, but I do try to reiterate, "This is the person to call because this person
right.
could be a different phone, and I might not hear the phone at 2 AM." So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm already just like, wow, wow. No wonder why you're a top producer. No wonder why you're as successful as you are. No wonder why you've been so successful that your husband could quit his job and join you in the business. And I'm just, number one, congratulations. I'm just so excited for you.
Well,
And I
thank
hope
you for
people,
teaching me how to. Let's put it that way. You taught
right.
me how to, so
Well, I mean, that is really, that's one of the things we try to communicate to people is, if you don't go through a travel MBA program and you want to start a travel business yourself and you see, the investment in the program is $10,000 and I don't have that, so I'm just going to try and figure it out myself. What we find is people fall into this accidental hobbyist trap where they start to build momentum. You're not going to not book travel. You will book travel, but you don't without that clear path and that guidance. So talk a little bit about um, how did you know to set up those systems and I mean, how did you know about a welcome series? I love the concept of a welcome series.
well, GTN in general, I would say, because we're such a collaborative group of people, that we all learn from each other. So during the pandemic, I think most of us spent a lot of time on Zoom talking about best practices to work on our business, why we couldn't
Yeah,
work our business.
yeah,
And so, I mean, I think I had some of them set up, but mentors, Carol McKee teaching us, this is how you can do it, Travel Joy, and so I just dived into it until I had it all set up. And then you kind of tweak it and change it as you go along, make it prettier, add in some pictures. We created welcome guides to tell
I
clients
love it.
what our systems are, what we do, what our services are, what our fees are, that we can send to them before they even have a conversation with us. So they know this is what we're going to offer you, and I'm going to charge you for that up up ahead of it. So I think during the pandemic gave us all a lot of time to work on our business, which was great. But yeah, I think I learned it through all the colleagues in GTN, and everybody had an idea, and you take it on board.
Yeah, that's exactly true. When during the pandemic, I think everyone was just paralyzed and especially once we realized this is gonna be more than 3 weeks. So
Darn it.
here I am, at the helm of a host agency with hundreds of travel advisors who have no cash flow for 9 months, 10, 12 months. And we um so one of the things we thought was really, really important was that to provide that opportunity, that space,
Yeah.
platform for the advisors to collaborate to, you know what? If you're a farmer, you have winter every single year where nothing's happening. And what do farmers do during the winter? They fix the tractor. They
Mend a
create.
fence.
Yeah, they invest in new stuff and they improve things. So that's what we we encouraged you all to do is we would meet with you regularly. We would hold um Zoom calls all the time, uh, and get provide that opportunity for people to lean into their community, and I do remember, like, a whole spinoff of, "Oh, welcome series," like, "I'm creating this, and I'm creating that," and then this whole sharing of information, it was really, really cool to
Yeah.
watch, and, um, it's also been super cool to see what has happened to people's businesses since then because they had that moment of pause,
Yeah.
you know? It's been really, really cool. And I get the sense that I mean, I already know this about you, but I'm hoping people who are listening to this episode get the sense that Kathy is, like, such a perfect representation of the kind of person that's gonna do really, really well in this career. If you haven't noticed, she's definitely competitive with herself.
Yeah.
She's definitely a go-getter, and you're the kind of person who's like, "Okay, show me how this is done, and then I'm gonna do it, but I am going to make put my own twist on it. I'm going to improve it for me, and and maybe there are things that you are showing me to do that actually don't work for me,
Right.
so I won't do that, but I'll do this instead, and I'll do this."
Yes. Everybody
You
works a little
can
different.
do it.
Yes. I definitely have that entrepreneurial mindset, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of the upsides to being successful. What does life look like on the other side?
Boy, oh boy. Well, I can play golf any time of the day if I want
Oh
to.
my gosh, that's
We
amazing.
go
I
to
love
the
that.
Fridays every week, unless we're not in town. I travel almost every month, somewhere. So,
Yeah,
I do, and I think to me that's one of the most important things is because that was my passion to start with, was I like to travel. Obviously, it's the shiny object in the room, that's why most people do it. Um, but I also do it to improve for me as a business to be able to tell my
yeah,
clients about the different locations. So this is my year of uncomfortable travel. I'm going to places I never thought I was gonna go to, and I've learned so much. So, I mean, and if I hadn't have gone, I couldn't speak to what it was like when we went to Egypt, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
being able to explain it to people makes me an even better business owner because I can do that. So, and I love to travel and I love new experiences and I love to see new places. So, that's the perks. The perks
yeah.
are I'm my own boss. I can make my own schedule. I can work when I want to or not when I don't want to. And hopefully I won't ever burn out at it because I feel like I have a pretty good balance of time and I get enough time to travel and, see the world at the same time. And I usually work some of the time that I'm traveling as well, right? Because you can't completely just stop
Yeah.
when you're gone. But and we're contemplating could be another perk. We're contemplating 6 months to a year on a digital nomad in Italy, so we can kind of see what we think it would be like to live there. I mean, we know we love Italy, but it would give me a whole different flavor for the culture if I actually
You
lived there
intended.
for a while. So can you do that with a 9 to 5 job? No, you can't do that.
No.
So
Mhm.
those are some great perks to being your own business owner and if you're successful enough to be able to afford to do it.
Absolutely, I love that. That is the dream, that is the life that, I believe we are helping people realize through our Travel MBA program. So thank you for and our Accelerate program. I mean, all of Travel Business University as a whole. There was something that I wanted to jump into though. Um, yeah, you get to spend a whole lot of time with your grandbabies too.
I do when I'm home. I have to
When you're
stay
not
home in order to spend time with the grandbabies, but sometimes we travel with them a lot too. So, our middle daughter in particular, it's a little harder with our 2 older grandchildren, and we just found out we have a 5th grandchild on the way, so there's
oh,
that.
exciting.
My oldest
Very
daughter's having another one, and that's kind of funny, but, we travel with them sometimes too. So we've had quite a bit with the 2 younger grandchildren, and my daughter traveling with us too, so, yeah.
So something else you said is this is the year of uncomfortable travel for you. I love this. I love it. I love that you are aware. You don't like pretend that there is no such thing as uncomfortable travel for you. You're just open about it. So tell us, or tell me what what have you done so far that was uncomfortable and what are you still yet to do?
Yep. So I did turkey, which was a little bit of an
Ooh,
uncomfortable trick for me as well. My biggest hi hiccups, if you will, in uncomfortable travel is food. If and that's because of I'm a particularly picky person to eat, and so if you go into countries, obviously, you've gotta try their cuisine, and that's sometimes uncomfortable for me, so I pack protein bars.
well, I
Um,
just that's awesome that you're open about it and you
yeah.
acknowledge it because I think there's a lot of people that are more uncomfortable than they let on, and they're
Yeah,
just afraid or ashamed of it,
yeah.
and you're not ashamed of it. You're just like,
No,
"This is just part of who I am,"
it is.
and I love that, and you still try, and you're
Mhm.
getting, and what have you learned from that?
They You don't have to like everything. No, I mean, I've gotten better over the years, especially since I've started traveling so much more, and sometimes things I think I'm really not gonna like, and I really do like it, so being culturally curious, as you used to
Yeah,
love to say,
yeah,
I even if it's not something I envisage myself wanting to go and see, by doing it, I learn, and sometimes I find things I wouldn't have thought I would like, and that's always a great growth moment.
yeah,
So Turkey wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be at first.
yeah.
We
Tell
just
me
got
more
back.
of more of the destinations. So Turkey,
Yeah,
continue
Egypt.
on.
Egypt
We
was
were
another
you
one.
there?
My husband really wanted to go. I was kind of on the fence about choosing that trip, but I went, and there were some good things, and there was some not so good things. It was a little too much history for me. My husband could have done it for another 2 weeks and been perfectly happy. So, it's kind of also a blend of letting him have something that he wants versus what I want.
Well, it
My ne
also helps you be a better advisor
Right.
because not everybody is a history buff, but for those who are,
Mhm.
husband, now you can really understand, you know, and you could just be a better advisor for that person who is a history buff.
Exactly.
And you probably have a better handle on how much time they should be spending, what they should see, what they shouldn't see, little things to add.
Yep.
So, I
I
love it.
can
So keep
speak to the
going.
experience now for sure.
Yeah.
So, that my next uncomfortable travel is coming up next month, and I'm going to Sri Lanka.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I
Very
know, right? I mean, I'm going with some great GTN ladies. I'm sure it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be different, right? I've never been to Asia except touching on it in Turkey, so it'll be my first trip into Asia as well. So We'll see. Again, it's probably more the food that scares me a little. I thought that South Africa was gonna be scary. I wasn't sure I wanted to go there, and, oh my god, I'd go back again in a heartbeat. In a
Yeah,
heartbeat, I would go back. That was so amazing, but it was one that was uncomfortable travel for me as well, and I loved it. I loved every
yeah.
minute of it. So, yeah.
That was actually the reason why I started a travel business was
Mhm,
for that reason. I didn't have Africa on my radar before I met my, first husband, and, when I was we were dating, and now I'm dating this gentleman from Zimbabwe,
mhm. Yep.
and his sister, was engaged, and their wedding was in Zimbabwe on their father's farm, and, of course, I was invited. I mean, by this time, I was we weren't engaged yet, but I kind of knew this was a serious thing, and I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm going to Zimbabwe," and I had the same reaction, like, "This is uncomfortable for me."
Yeah, yeah.
I and I what my assumptions were completely wrong,
Mhm.
and I
I
think that's what you're living right now is you are debunking all of these assumptions that you have. Maybe not debunking all of them, right?
yeah.
Like you said, some of them, it is what you expected it to be, and, um, but it's still absolutely worth going. So,
Thank you.
um, okay, so Sri Lanka, um, yeah, what is there I'm so curious. Is there a food or, um, something that you thought you would hate and you actually really, really love? Like an example of that?
Mm. I'd have to think I travel so much and try so many different foods now, I'd
Yeah.
have to remember back.
So there's
Um,
there's nothing that you now do, more
at
regularly?
home.
Like, I used
Mm.
to, I mean, hate coffee or cappuccino or something, and now I love it, or,
Well, and I
um
haven't actually been to Japan yet, but although that
oh.
was on the list now. But I used to hate sushi, and
Oh,
now it's
interesting.
one of the things I really, really enjoy, and we have it frequently. So and it isn't because I traveled there yet, but I'm excited to maybe go there because I think I
Right.
might be able to eat well there. We're
Yeah.
contemplating a trip to either China or, Thailand later in the year. So those will be 2 new places for me as well, and I'm kind of like but I think I could eat the Chinese food okay. I don't know about Thailand. Yeah.
I wanna go back to, working with your spouse,
Mm,
because, you did it so almost seamlessly. I mean, what you did and what Richard was able to do is kind of a pipe dream for a lot
mm,
of people. You started a business, and but you invested in the right guidance for that business. The reward is that you built this incredible life and this opportunity where you're like, "Hey, you don't have to work anymore. If you wanna quit, you can come and join me and we can do this together."
yeah,
That's a pipe dream for a lot of people.
yeah.
Has it turned out to be the pipe dream you hoped it to be?
I
And what
think
are some
yeah.
of the challenges you've had?
Yeah, we kind of tested the waters during COVID, right? We were
Yeah.
5 feet apart from each other. Everybody on our Zoom boxes could hear my husband in the background talking to course. So we were together 24/7, and for some people, that was great during COVID, and for some people, it was divorcing work, because they didn't make it through spending that much time with their spouse. So I think the fact that we had tested it before we actually did it was probably a good thing. He's also my best friend. I mean, I just love doing everything with him anyway, but, when I surpassed him by such a large amount in income, it just and he wasn't enjoying his job anymore.
Mhm.
Was no longer being technical, hands-on like he used to be. They just promoted him past that. He was in management, and so it was the perfect segue for us both to,
Yes.
do it together. Plus, I would travel so much, and he couldn't come with me, for a lot of it, and so
Yeah.
now he can as part business owner in the company, he can come with me more, and so that's another real good benefit to him quitting, and we both love it. We both enjoy what we're doing, and we still enjoy each other's company.
Any
Couple
tips
moments there, but,
with your spouse? and making it work? Do you have any tips?
Patience, having a
Humor. It
good
sounds like
ally.
humor. Humor.
Humor helps. He tries. I think having a clear-cut job
Description.
information, knowing this is my responsibility and this is your responsibility.
Yeah.
So if you blur those lines, then you start to say, it's your fault you missed it. It's your fault you didn't do this.
Yeah.
Having a clear-cut path as to what each person is really gonna do and what their main jobs are, I think is key, because then you have to own your own responsibility. Well, if I forgot to book this, well, that's my fault. I'm the one who's
Mhm.
to do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And if he forgets to, make the dinner reservation or whatever, then we know it's his fault. So
Yeah.
we're not blaming each other for something in between. So I think those are probably, and having some hobbies, enjoying doing fun things. I think that also
Yeah.
makes a huge difference. Travel.
Yeah.
We love to travel together. We go play golf. We make sure we make time to go to lunch together on a weekday, or, we shop together well, we do everything together, but we do things that we enjoy as well
Yeah.
as the work.
I'm just getting chills. You are you are such a great example and such an inspiration for a lot of people, I would imagine. Um, now, so you talked a little bit about how, you love to travel. Obviously, if you love to travel, one of the reasons why you start a travel business is
Mhm.
because you love to travel. But my philosophy, and I think you would agree with this, is that if that is the number reason why you're starting a travel business, then you're you're actually, you know, you're using your head and not your heart, and you're in really should be your heart that's in the business. And so for you to have the kind of success that you've had, I know that you have, um, whether you're even aware of it or not, you have mastered the art of relationships, with clients, because you cannot have the kind of success that you've had, especially with the answer that you gave me in terms of, like, you're now at the point where it's mostly referrals and repeat business if you're not really good at relationships. What is your philosophy on how to develop good relationships with clients?
I always try to get them on the phone. Some people
Mhm.
really like Zoom. I find myself very awkward on Zoom, and I use my hands a lot, and I like to walk around when I talk usually. I like to get them on the phone and learn their travel DNA. I think it's important to try to find out as much about what they typically enjoy, what their travel style is, and collaborate with them. So I think that once you build that conversation, that's where the relationship starts. You start talking, or, oh, I'm so excited to tell you about this cooking class that I did in Tuscany. They can hear my excitement as well.
Yeah.
And then they hear my expertise as well. So I think it's a
Mhm.
combination of talking to them, asking them the right questions, making time when they have questions once you give them the proposal, all those kind of things to make them feel like I'm listening to them.
Yeah.
And I tell them on the phone the first time, it's like, I may hit it out of the park first time, I might not. We're new. If we're new clients, I need to kind of learn what you enjoy, what makes a perfect trip for you. I know what makes a perfect trip for me, so I want to make sure I incorporate what will get you excited and anticipate this trip. So I think for me, that's where it starts. It
Yeah.
absolutely starts in the beginning and getting on the phone with them. That's where I have the best sales. I mean, if I can get them on the phone 90, 95% of the time, I've locked them in before the call's over.
Wow.
Um, I've got a good rate with getting them on the phone. If we're going back and forth through email, I feel like it doesn't have the same sense of relationship. So I don't have as good of a success rate if they don't wanna get on the phone.
Mm.
Tomorrow night, I'm actually going to a client's house. I've never done that before, so that's gonna be weird. She
That's
really
exciting.
wants to meet me in person. I'm like, "Okay, I'm coming," and I'm gonna be on Zoom too because it's for 3 couples or something like that. That's gonna
Okay.
be uncomfortable for me, but I'll get over it.
Right.
But I think the relationship is in the conversation mostly for me in the beginning, and then continuing to keep in contact with them.
Yeah.
If I've got bigger clients, or, even good clients that haven't traveled in a while, when I have a few minutes, I'll reach out and say, "Hey, what's up? Are you thinking about going somewhere? What can I help you with? Are you thinking about going somewhere for Christmas this year or something like that? So that they know I'm still thinking about them even if they haven't come to me for a trip as well.
I think that is, it's brilliant. It's so simple, but it's not necessarily easy. Because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, and I guarantee everybody is not doing it. It's a great example, but I love how you have layered in technology to make it easier.
Yeah.
So, what you were saying earlier about w you have Richard who fills in, the skeleton of the itinerary is what I like to call it.
Yeah.
But then you have that Loom video that you do
Mhm.
to mentally prepare them for their trip and get them excited. And what I love about that philosophy or the fact that you do that is you're still doing a one-to-one, you're still managing the relationship in a way that makes them feel like it's you. They're not just talking to some box. Um, but by doing a video that walks them through it, you don't have to worry about matching calendars, and making sure that you're getting on the phone with them at a time that's convenient for them and a time that works for you. Um, you take out that hurdle
Yeah.
and you're able to automate it even more. So I
And
love
there's a
that.
canned email that goes with it. So it's got a spot for a link for their itinerary again. It's got a spot for their Loom
So it's
video.
really easy to put together.
Yep.
You really, like, reduce the amount of time it takes to even create that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how much more time you would spend if you were trying
Oh.
to getting on the phone, trying to figure out a time that works for everybody, the back and forth.
Mhm.
So I love that. I really, really love that. So we are pretty much at the top of our hour, that we like to spend together. Um, 2 more questions for you. Second to last question is if there's somebody listening who can really relate, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm a lot like Cathy, but I'm scared to death to leave my secure career right now, even though it's sucking the life out of me." Um, what are some tips you would have for someone who is on the precipice of maybe taking a leap of faith?
Well, we know the first one. Call GTN, have a conversation about the Travel MBA because it tells you how to be a business owner, not a hobbyist travel agent,
Absolutely.
a book
Yeah.
taker. That's
Yeah.
so I think that's number one. But I think also reading reviews, actually, or talking to people. I don't know, also because I am a mentor with GTN, I've had many conversations with people even contemplating the travel MBA. What is it really like? What can I really do? What can I really make? But then you just have to own it. What you focus on expands. I'm being Meredith today. If you have faith in yourself that you can do it and you have the commitment and the drive to do it, you can do it. It's I knew nobody when I started this. I worked from home by myself with a very little network of people. My family is not my people, so they don't count. I was very, very isolated, raising my kids, running my doll business by myself at home. I didn't have people, colleagues that I used to work with that I could sell travel to. So I
Mhm.
no network at
Love
all
it.
when I started. So you can do it if you have the commitment and the drive and the want. You have to have that fire in your belly that you actually want to be successful at it, and then you just have to dive in. I was blessed in the fact that I could. Richard was working, didn't matter if I succeeded or I failed, so I had no thoughts that I would fail, and I just jumped in and I gave it my all. So I think you just
Love
have
that.
to own it, and hopefully you have the support behind so that you can learn, because it takes a little time to get going.
Mhm. I would like it's not a sprint. It is definitely a marathon, and I love that you had that belief in yourself, and I think that is also, um, that's, very like, I can't help you with that. I can teach you how to get over a lack of belief,
Mhm.
uh, but the fact that you've always had that, I sense.
I mean, I've always been a go-getter. I would say I really
Yeah.
took that
You've
line,
always been
but
a yeah,
didn't know how to do it, had no
yeah,
idea how I was gonna succeed at it. I had to figure my path out for sure,
yeah,
100%. So, even my other businesses was never something I knew what to do in the beginning. It was
right,
completely just, "I like it, I'm gonna try it, let's see what happens." So, that's
yeah.
kind of my method.
So the last question is thank you for that. Fantastic advice. I promise you I wasn't looking for a compliment. I was or an endorsement of the travel MBA program, but I was just more, what is I'm trying to like channel the questions that people might be thinking.
Sure, yeah.
Um
But you need
so
somebody to help you. So that's really where the travel MBA does come in.
yeah,
Or even if it's not with GTN, I'm sure there's some other programs out there, but you need somebody with experience to mentor you, to
yeah.
guide you, to answer those questions, fill in the
Yeah.
gaps with things you don't know on your own.
Well, I think the fact that you are so your business represents how powerful it can be to have the right systems and processes in place.
Yeah.
Um, that is where I feel like we can take some credit. It's you are really good at that, but we gave you the direction on what to put into place and even the hiring it's a conversation we have all the time because
Yeah.
there's so many people who are afraid to hire. But without it, you can't grow the way you've grown.
And when I did hire before Richard, oh my god, it gave me so much more space to do the sale, to do the relationships with people when I just gave up